For the sugar cookie recipe, we're going to need a cup of coconut flour. I like mine to be more like a shortbread cookie, so the coconut flour is much softer. If you want a more crunchy cookie, I would suggest using almond flour. Going to use just about a cup. Then we're going to use an 1/8 teaspoon of salt, an 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda. Then I'm going to be using stevia in the raw for my sweetener. You can use extra maple syrup or honey if you'd like. Some people really are preferring coconut sugar these days too. I'm using 1 tablespoon of pure maple syrup, not Mrs. Butterworth's. One tablespoon of almond milk, a teaspoon of vanilla, 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. Then you're just going to give it a little bit of a mix. The nice thing is that you don't need a hand mixer or kitchen mixer, you can just use a fork. Then I'm going to be using coconut oil. Make sure to melt it in the microwave for about 25 seconds. I'm going to continue to add almond milk until I get the right dough consistency. You should be able to mold it kind of like Play-Doh. Then we're going to make the dough into a ball on a piece of saran wrap. If you feel like you still need to have a more moist dough, continue to add almond milk or water. We're going to put this in the freezer for about 30 to 40 minutes, and while that's freezing, we're going to make the gingerbread. We're going to start off with coconut flour again, about a cup. I'm also using quinoa flour so that the cookies have a nice crunch to them. Then I'm also going to use 1/4 cup of milled flaxseed, an 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and then you can eyeball the cinnamon and all the rest of the spices. My dog Kovu is trying to get in on the action. I used about 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, a couple dashes of nutmeg, and a pinch of ground cloves, or a lot of ground cloves, an 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 cup of stevia. If you don't want the spices to overpower it, go ahead and use a little bit more stevia. Then we're going to use 1/4 cup of blackstrap molasses. This gives it that true gingerbread cookie feel. Next, we're going to be adding my new favorite ingredient is my Wetherspoon Beechwood honey. This stuff is loaded with antioxidants and prebiotics and it tastes amazing. I'm using a little bit more than a tablespoon. Then I'm going to melt coconut oil for 25 seconds in the microwave. And you can add it right to your batter. Then mix it up. This stuff is going to get really sticky. So to break up the clumpiness, I decided to add some almond milk. You can eyeball this depending on how thick you want the batter. Then with a piece of saran wrap, you can also form the dough into a ball. To make freeze time shorter, you can do multiple little dough balls instead of one big one. As you can see, it's pretty crumbly, so I ended up adding more almond milk after I filmed this. Then you're going to place this in the freezer for 30 minutes, and we're going to spray our parchment paper with some coconut oil spray. And then take a paper towel and just grease it down. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And after 30 minutes is up, take out your dough and we are going to roll it out and start putting it into the cookie cutters. I place the dough on a piece of parchment paper that I'm going to fold over in half so that way I can roll it out and it doesn't stick to my rolling pin. It's okay if it's a little bit crumbly. Roll the dough to about 1/4 of an inch thick and then you can start using your cookie cutters. I'm only going to have my Christmas trees and my reindeer for this one because I couldn't find my gingerbread man, but it's okay if the dough crumbles around it because you can just roll it back up into a ball and roll it out again. If you need to refreeze the dough for a little while so that you can work with the dough, go ahead. I had to do this about 3 or 4 times. Then I'm going to place these in the oven for about 7 to 12 minutes depending on how thick you cut them. And while you wait, look at my puppy Kovu. He's so cute. What are you doing, Cove? He's my little helper. Now for the sugar cookies. I'm going to just flour my parchment paper a little bit with some coconut flour so it doesn't stick. These took a little bit longer to freeze, so it ended up being a little under an hour. This dough is super crumbly and makes a very cake-like cookie. If you want a more crunchy cookie, I suggest using a different flour. Again, if you need to make the dough a little bit harder, go ahead and place it back in the freezer as you cut out the cookies. This was my second or third time taking the dough out of the freezer. As you can see, it's a very crumbly mixture. I also have some snowmen that I baked for about 10 to 15 minutes depending on the thickness, and then I'm going to use my protein icing recipe, which you can find on my blog, to give these guys a little bit of a decoration. And in my world, snowmen can be blue. Now that your paleo and vegan Christmas cookies are all finished, you can go ahead and enjoy them. These are perfect to take to Christmas parties, and you will wow your friends telling them that these are 100% healthy cookies. And I like to enjoy these with a glass of almond milk, or my new favorite thing, which is almond milk eggnog. It's delicious. And special thanks to Kovu for being such a good little helper today. He really does love my Christmas cookies. He probably ate about 1/4 of this dough in the process. Say bye, Cove!